What's up, y'all? Back again with another video, and today we are going over my of course I don't have them here with me, but my quick release steering wheel hub and steering wheel install. This is not going to be a step-by-step, because as you can see, I've already taken a bunch of this apart. The day that I started, I was kind of tired, wasn't sure if I was going to make a video on this. There's plenty of write-ups and videos on how to take all this apart if you're interested in following along with this. I am going to show you how I go about getting the horn to work, because I do want my horn to work. So I'm going to show you how I went about that, because I've watched a bunch of YouTube videos on this, and thus far very few of them have addressed how to make the horn work, at least on 90s Hondas. And the ones that I have seen either didn't go into detail, they didn't explain how they did it, or they just plain didn't hook the horn up. There was a whole lot of them where they just didn't use the horn. So if I get this all figured out and it works well, I'm going to show you what I did and how I went about it. There's more than one way to do this. I'm just going to show you the way that I did it. And then obviously I'll show you what it looks like once it's all done, and just give you an update, show you how it looks. But I think that's the primary thing, is I'm going to point out a couple little details, a couple little hints. Alrighty, so to start with, we're going to start with the horn, because that seems to be the part that leaves the most information lacking in this whole process. So what I did to figure out how first of all, when you take off the SIR coil, there's going to be a ribbon cable that runs from the bottom of the SIR coil down. It's going to loop up through this brace, and it's going to connect to this yellow connector right here. The ribbon cable has a yellow connector on the end. This is what the ribbon cable looks like. I've disassembled it. I'll show you why in a minute. But you unplug it from here, and the way I figured out which one was the horn was I took this jumper connector that I already had for diagnosing codes. This is the jumper wire I use for shorting together the connector over there, and it fits in here pretty well. So what I did was I connected one end of this to the ground, and I just went through and I touched all the different terminals until one blew the horn. And if memory serves me, it ended up being the connector all the way on the driver's side of this connector that ended up being the horn. And what I ended up doing to make this work was I disassembled the ribbon cable, and to do that you have to pull this wedge out of the back of the connector here. There's a couple little tabs on each side right here. You press the tabs in, pop that wedge out, and then you flip it over, and down inside here, I don't know how you can see it, I got one in there now. You have to release those two tabs down in there while putting some slight pressure back on each one of these terminals to release the terminal from the connector body. Keep in mind it's a ribbon cable, so there's going to be like 4 or 5 connectors all kind of together on the same ribbon. So it's a little tricky, not terrible. You're going to need like a fine point pick or something. And then I disassembled the ribbon cable, and that's why there's only 3 left on here, because I peeled one of the ribbons off, and I kind of just cut away this actual connector on the end, and I soldered a piece of wire onto the terminal and then reinserted it into here. And my theory is I'm going to connect this to there, route the cable up to where it's up here, and I'll show you what my solution for this end is when I get there. I'm going to put an eyelet on the end of this, and I have like a spring-loaded hair clip that I'm going to put here that'll touch the contact surface on the back of the hub. I'll show you that when I get to it, and we'll make sure this all works. Alrighty, so I got my cable plugged in. I used the factory clip to secure it with right there. I've got it routed up above this. You can't really see it, but the wire comes up, comes through here, the blue wire comes up, And then what I did was I took one of those metal like snappy hair clips and I trimmed part of the triangle off. I wire brushed the whole thing down to bare metal, drilled a small hole in it. I put an eyelet on the end of my wire, and then I sandwiched all of it into the hole over here where the SIR coil would have originally bolted to. I also forgot to mention the reason I decided to do it this way with like modifying the SIR connector was because my SIR coil had previously already been cut, as you can see right there. Someone who owned the car before me cut the ribbon cable for the SIR coil. I imagine they did it when they were trying to work on the ignition cylinder, but I don't know. So since mine was already damaged and it wasn't reusable anyway, I went ahead and modified the connector. Now there is other ways you could do it. You could just get a terminal similar to that, or something that fits down inside that connector, and you could just plug it in there and maybe wrap it up with some electrical tape, and you wouldn't have to worry about all the soldering and using the other side of this connector like I did. I went that way because it was a little more professional, a little more secure, blah blah blah. But anyway, so I did that, and then on the back side of the hub is this big metal surface that's isolated with the nylon, and the theory is that is going to make contact with the hair clip, and then as you can see the other end of this hub is grounded through the steering column. It bolts to the hub and the hub makes contact with the steering column, and that's where you get your ground. When you press the horn button, these two wires make contact, and yeah, that's how, theoretically, that's how this all works. So, we shall see. Alrighty, now I don't have this secured yet, but if you can see on the steering shaft right here, it's got a line that goes up and down, and you want to align that as close as possible with this dot up here. That'll ensure that your steering wheel goes on as straight as possible. Also, you'll see these two little prongs that stick out on this. You want to make sure they line up with the two slots on here. They should line up pretty naturally, but you want to make sure they line up because this whole mechanism right here, I'm pretty sure is what cancels your turn signals. Like when you go around the turn and they automatically shut off, that's what takes care of that. So by having those locked into the splines, A, it'll allow the hub to sit as far down as possible, but B, it'll cancel your turn signals automatically, so you'll still have that functionality. Alrighty, so we got this all on and tight. Now at this point, if you were not using the quick release, then you would just go ahead and bolt your steering wheel on and you would be done. I have chosen to use a quick release, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on now. I do believe that you want the if you're using an NRG, then I believe you want the NRG logo to be up top, just like that dot is. Alrighty, so I got my short hub on, I got the quick release adapter bolted on, and I got the other half on my wheel, which is a Grip Royal wheel. Now, story time. I believe if you're using an NRG wheel, none of this is an issue. You continue as described with the dot at the top. However, the quick release is pre-drilled for two different steering wheel bolt patterns. The NRG wheel, I assume, uses the one that naturally lines up vertically with the dot. My Grip Royal wheel uses one that is slightly rotated. So, to get my wheel to sit straight, I had to remove my short hub and move it over 2 notches, or 2 splines. So instead of facing at 12 o'clock, the dot is now facing at closer to like 11 o'clock, maybe between 10 and 11, somewhere over there. So you just like take it off and you bump it over 2 splines. The best way to figure this out would be, before you crank anything tight, just kind of loosely finger tight assemble everything and make sure your steering wheel sits straight. If it doesn't, then you're going to have to take it off and rotate it. There's a little bit of trial and error. I do like the... We'll put this on. This is all tight. I do like the Grip Royal steering wheel. It was a little bit finicky to hold all of this in place because there's a metal plate behind here, plus this and all this, but it all works. So it's a little finicky to get it all to line up, but it does line up. It looks good. I like it. So straighten that out. There you go. This is the version 2.5 quick release from NRG. The quick release also came with this. It doesn't need it for my steering wheel, but on certain aftermarket steering wheels where the horn button kind of just snaps in the middle, I believe this needs to get kind of pinched and inserted in the middle of that quick release adapter in order to give those the horn buttons something to grip onto when they snap in. I believe that's what this is for. Now, like I said, mine doesn't use that because it bolts in place, but if you have a horn button that snaps in, you may need to install this in your quick release. Alrighty, y'all. I think that's going to just about do it for this video. We got the new steering wheel in. I've showed you coming off and going on a couple times. The horn works. So, yeah. Hopefully you found this video helpful. I tried to show some of the more nuanced things about this install that seem to get left out of a lot of other install videos. So, hopefully you found this helpful. And, yeah, I'll catch you in the next one.